Today I'm going to show you how to record long quantized loops on your Octatrack. After this, you're going to be able to break the 4-bar restriction the Octatrack has on it by default, and you're going to be able to record 8 to 16-bar quantized loops. A quantized loop is a predetermined start and stop time of a recording. This is really great for recording patterns into your Octatrack. Say you're sequencing some outboard gear, you want to have something longer than just 4 bars. So the first awesome thing that we're going to get is 8-bar loops, right? That's just better to work in. I usually work in 8-bar loops. Another great thing we can do is we could record a 4-bar pattern twice, but make variations or play with the parameters on our other boxes and record that in and turn a 4-bar loop into an 8-bar loop. Or we could bounce down 2 patterns, say that you have chained, down to 1 8-bar loop in your Octatrack. Or you can sum a bunch of sounds in your Octatrack, freeing up more tracks so that you can add more sounds into a composition. There's a ton of reasons why you'd want to do this. And those are just a few off the top of my head, seriously. I'm sure you'll figure out plenty of other reasons. All right, so I got a fresh project loaded on the Octatrack. I'm going to show you how to do this completely from scratch. First thing we have to do is adjust some settings on a project level, so let's go ahead and do that. Go into Project, go down to Control, select Memory, and what we want to turn on is Dynamic Recorders. Dynamic Recorders allows one recording buffer to steal memory from another recording buffer, giving the recording buffer who needs it more memory for recording. This is useful for recording longer samples in general on the Octatrack, but we're going to need this to record longer quantized loops as well. This alone won't allow us to record longer quantized loops. The quantization settings is kind of the important and tricky part in this tutorial. We could also just give a recording buffer a longer reserve time if we wanted, instead of turning dynamic recorders on, but just turning on dynamic recorders is a whole lot easier than dealing with reserve lengths and selecting which track has a longer reserve time. Technically, you could actually have the Octatrack record like 4,000 steps of audio, but you couldn't record 4,000 quantized steps of audio, but you could record for a really long time. So we're going to hit No to leave this menu. This will pop up, just hit yes. You could have turned up the bitrate if you wanted while you were there. It will eat up some more of your memory. It's not important for this tutorial. It's something that you probably will want to do if you're recording in general anyway. I think everybody turns 24-bit on the Octatrack. Another setting that I like to turn on is called Quick Record. This is in your project settings under Personalize. It's down at the very bottom. Just select that. This makes it so you can just hit the button one time to initiate a recording, as opposed to holding a track and then hitting one of these buttons, because that's how it is by default on the Octatrack. So the next thing we need to do is change our pattern settings. We're going to go Function, Pattern, change it to per track. Then we're going to go Function Page, and we're going to change our pattern scaling. What I need access to is this master length, but I also need access to being able to adjust the track length. This is why we had to change it to per track. We're going to turn our master length up to 128. For this tutorial, we're going to record 8-bar loops, but you technically could record all the way up to 32-bar loops if you wanted. Now we're going to hit Page a few times to give it 4 bars of steps that it can record for. And then we're going to go over here to our track scaling, and we're going to turn it to half speed. So this track's going to take twice as long to achieve 64 steps, which will in turn result in 128 steps of recording for us. This is important because the next thing we're going to do is set up a flex track to record according to the length of time it takes for the sequencer to play. You get the idea here? So essentially, if we wanted to go past 8 bars, we could bring this down to a quarter and we'd be able to record for twice as long, so 16 bars. And then down to an eighth, this would be 32 bars. In order for you to record beyond an 8-bar loop, you're going to have to also adjust your master length. So let's go ahead and leave it at half. I'm going to turn track 1 into a flex track, and I'm going to turn time stretch off. For this tutorial, I'm going to turn my track level up to 127 so it doesn't attenuate any of the volumes. I'm going to go into my mixer settings, and I'm going to turn up both the inputs up to 127. This is going to allow the audio from the gear that I have beneath my Octatrack to come into the Octatrack at the volume that they're being played at. You would think that direct 127 means that it's like amplifying the volume in some way, and it's not. It's just how much of this signal is the Octatrack going to listen to. If you're below 127, it's just less volume. You can actually adjust the gain positively and negatively of the signal right here. So let's leave this menu. I'm going to double press track 1, and I'm going to select recording buffer 1. So now we have a flex track set up. It's listening to recording buffer 1, which is the recording buffer we're going to set up for quantized loops. Now let's go into the recording buffer and adjust some of its settings. Function, rec 1. The most important settings in here is that you have it set on Trig One-2, and then you have the record length set at max. These other settings, they're up to you depending on what you're recording. I'm recording through the mix input, all three of these machines, so I'm actually going to record the mains, which means I'm going to be using Rec 3. I'm going to be using a single button press to start a recording and another button press to stop the recording. Trig One-2 is what enables this whole thing to work. So next we're going to go into Rec 2 and we're going to turn quantized recording to pattern length. Your first button press is going to initiate your recording. The second button press is what's going to tell the Octatrack to stop that recording at the end of the pattern length. You start your sequencer on the Octatrack, you hit the button, it'll start recording at the beginning of the next pattern after it's achieved the full 128 steps for us, and then it will start recording there. Hit the record button again, and that's when the second button press is going to tell the Octatrack to stop recording at the end of that pattern length. In combination with Trig One-2, record length max, and quantized recording pattern length, this is what's going to give us our quantized recordings. This and our pattern scaling. All this combined is going to make the Octatrack record quantized loops of 4, 8, 16, and 32 bars. So now that we've done it, let's check it out. I've got the MIDI routing set up on my Octatrack, so these machines are going to start when I tell it to. We're going to hit Rec 3 to initiate a recording. It's going to wait after 8 bars of the music playing. As soon as it starts recording, I'm going to hit Rec 3 again, and that will send the message to tell the Octatrack to end the recording at the end of our pattern length, which is going to give us an 8-bar recording. I am using an 8-bar pattern, so you'll actually be able to notice it. Okay, so now I'm going to do my button press. And you'll see here in a second, it'll stop recording at the end of this last page. And there it is, a quantized 8-bar recording. We could do it at a much lower tempo because dynamic recorders, it will allocate that memory over to the recording buffer that needs it. So you can do it at any tempo. So this is how it is done. Because I have the track level at 127 and I have the mix input at 127, this recording will be at the exact volume that we just heard it. Perfect. In order for you to record beyond an 8-bar loop, you're going to have to also adjust your master length. So I'm going to go over here and we're going to double it to 256, set the track to 1/4, and this is going to make it move at quarter speed, so quarter resolution. Now I'm going to record an even longer loop, which is going to equal 16 bars. I'm not going to make you sit through this. I'll just show you the end result just to prove to you that you can do this. All right, so my 16-bar loop has started recording. Hit Rec 3 again, and that's going to send the message to tell it to stop recording at the end of 256 steps. And there we have it. A 16-bar loop recorded in the Octatrack. We could go even further, to a maximum of 32 bars, but you can record up to 32-bar quantized loops with dynamic recorders and the settings that I just showed you. My name is Matthew, aka EZBOT. If you like these kind of tutorials, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and consider joining the Patreon if you'd like to support me even further. I'll see you next time.